Hello viewers, my name is Babatunde Adebola and I'd like to welcome you to this special edition of La Lumiere the J. If you're just watching this show for the very first time, you're welcome. This is a program where we showcase the lives of individuals who have made a deliberate decision to live successfully. Too many people across the world often give the responsibility for the changes they desire to see to external forces. And the reality is that as long as you do that, you're dependent on things that are usually outside of your control. The government, it could be your boss in the office, or different things. And most of the time, people feel legitimate the fact that these changes must come from these individuals. But what if you're not fortunate for them to respond to you or even care about the things you want? That's why we're beginning to look at the lives of people who have recognized the fact that the easiest way to predict the future is to determine it. They determine it by making choices that ensure that their lives can be better off by the quality of decisions they make today. Today we're going to be considering a very important topic that is dear to my heart. It's called being the change you desire to see. And why is that the case? Because by making up your mind to do that, you make life easier for yourself. On the 10th of February 2017, I made up my mind that I was no longer going to blame anybody but myself for the changes I desire to see in my environment. So I started a campaign called Being the Change You Want to See. And that's going to be the focus of what we're going to be doing today. And to enable us to share that in detail, I decided to bring a friend of mine. We've worked together on different initiatives, and her name is Bolaji Ajayi. Bolaji, you're welcome onto the show.
Thank you.
So Bolaji and I, we're going to be discussing from personal experiences about different things that border on this topic. Basically showing you that you can actually make the change you desire to see happen by doing what is within your control. So Bolaji, you're welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So I think the first thing we normally do is to get to know our viewers. I think I'm better known. So tell us about yourself for the purpose of the audience.
Okay. My name is Bolaji Ajayi. I'm a business person, so I work in the finance space. Okay. I'm a multinational. I've been in finance consulting for about 11 years now.
Okay.
I studied economics.
Okay.
Both first degree and master's level.
Okay.
And I think that's what that has got me to the point where I think that's what drove me to consulting in the first place. So finance consulting, because I got to, there's some perception that I got from that space in the sense that in Nigeria, there's, the economics about development, it's about growth and all that. And I could see a lot of gap in Nigeria, and that's probably what endeared me to it, basically.
Okay. Your first degree was in economics?
Yes.
Where was that?
Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes.
And then where was the master's
my master's program was at Michigan State University in the US.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. So let's start from there. What major changes did you have to do to be able to adapt to the US? Was there any material change, or was it just easy peasy for you?
Okay, that's an interesting question because, so in Nigeria, right, education is around, so you go to school, half the time you just cram your notes and just go for exams and you pass. So I finished with a 2-1, so it was like, okay, yeah, good enough. And then I got to, so I actually went in for a PhD. I converted to a master's.
Okay.
So I got admitted for a PhD.
Okay.
And the first set of classes, I'm like, what the heck are these people talking about? And there was a course that I would have sworn in my life that I had never ever seen those things before. But then, like the break I had after the first semester, my sister got married in Nigeria, so I came to Nigeria.
Okay.
And I was just going through my room, I saw some notes and I opened it and voila. I saw some of those things that I'm like, how did I pass this course?
I see.
So it just goes to show the huge difference in how you learn. Like, in Nigeria back then, it was just pass. So it was more, just as long as I could cram it and put it out there in the exam, I was done. But I realized that, for the program, you had to know what it was. You had to understand the underlying in those, whatever it is you were being taught. And then whatever way of form or shape it comes, then you can actually answer the questions or deal with the issue or what have you. So that was I think that was the first thing in terms of academics that shook me.
Yes.
And then, of course, the environment. So it was Michigan. Michigan is like one of the worst states to go to when it's winter.
Okay.
So
it's very cold.
It is very cold.
Okay.
So my first winter was hell.
You were not adequately prepared?
You can't. I don't know how you can be prepared, right? Because it's it was so bad that, I would wear like face masks when I was on the, it was
Wow.
because I'm like, this is crazy. And there was one that I was studying, and on the radio I heard, oh, it's minus, and they use Fahrenheit.
Okay, yes.
Right? So they're like, oh, it's minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm like, are you crazy? Because normally if it's summer, it's like, what, 80 degrees?
I
So
see.
you're now saying minus
Yeah.
minus 10. I'm like, so that night, to be honest with you, that night I said to myself, what am I doing here? I have food in Nigeria. I have a roof over my head. Am I crazy? Like, I actually had those thoughts, because I'm like, but it's life, right? You adapt, you kind of evolve, you move on with it, and, as long as you know what you want to do, where you want to get to, you just kind of way through it.
Welcome back, viewers, to a very special edition of La Lumiere the J. We're discussing how you can become the change that you want to see. And I still have with me here Bolaji Ajayi, who's shared her experiences of how she went for Masters in Economics and got back to Africa and has been working, first of all, as a consultant, but now working in a multinational company. What changes have you begun to make in Africa now that you're what opportunities have you seen?
Okay, so for me, there are tons of opportunities, right? And it's a case of there's quite a bit with the environment that just we have to work around.
Okay.
I think that's one of the most challenging things, because like the couple of ideas I've been trying to work on, and like you're almost there and then something changes in policy, in legislation, in something, and then you're almost like, okay, back to ground zero, square one, to start over again. So, but for example, like, people complain about so many things, but in most of those things, right, they're opportunities.
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, for example, right now, everybody is the whole foreign exchange issue that is on everybody's mind.
Okay.
Especially, I work in multinational, so it's really impacting us. But then the other side of it is, because of that, so many things, people can import so many things, which we could actually manufacture locally.
Yeah.
Now, it goes back to some of the challenges with infrastructure, with, policies. So, there's some things that if you want to start off, you still need to import the equipment. Now, with the foreign exchange issues we're having, makes it more difficult to import the equipment, even though you have other thing in place, right? So it's kind of like, the hurdles that you just need to walk through. But the point is, for me, at the end of the day, it's what vision do you have? What do you want? What do you want to solve for, right? And at each step of the way, just always cross the hurdle, cross the next one. Even though sometimes it's like you take 5 steps forward, you go back 3 steps, but just keep moving, just keep doing something, and eventually you're going to get there.
One thing I see is that in trying to address, so we have people in 2 categories. There are people who always blame the government for all the inadequacies, which may be partly true, in fact, it's largely true. But there are people who realize that, look, this is an opportunity, entrepreneurs, they realize that this is an opportunity for me to solve a problem. So they create value by solving one problem or the other, and in return for that, they expect to get the financial reward. But then, in between is what you've talked about. There are challenges that border on infrastructure and other things that actually make it difficult to operate as you would in a developed economy. The question is, what do you do? What I believe, because I see this a lot, I have a consulting background as well, is that too often we try to work only when the conditions are perfect. And as long as you have that mindset, it's difficult for you to start. What I think is more ideal is start with the little resources that you have, because you talked about getting the equipment for to deliver, which are all valid. But then until you get those equipment, what opportunities are available to you today? It's interesting that you talked about the fact that the forex challenge in a country like Nigeria is actually making people to consider other options for sourcing items, whether it is uniforms or it is materials for manufacturing. And I know a couple of people who have begun to produce those things locally and who are actually smiling to the banks today. So whereas majority of people are complaining, these guys actually have never had a better last year because this opportunity is playing to their hands. It's just a question of improving the quality of what they provide. So it's really all about perspectives. And so you said you want to go into the agricultural industry. Have you given much thought to the specific area of the value chain that you're looking to, or is this just still
for me
a dream?
it's process. Okay, so for me, it's more the processing space is, what I'm really keen about, because
Okay.
what ends up happening is almost 50% of what our produce goes to waste, because
That's
we do
correct.
not have any means of converting them, of storing them, of doing whatever it is with
That's
them,
correct.
right? And then we end up with all this price hikes, importing things and all of that stuff. So for me, it's that space that I'm really particular about,
Okay.
because then you can, you can also, it's going to impact even the farmers, because
Yeah.
then they get more returns
Yeah.
for their produce. Beyond that, when they now know that, oh, I sell, so it's simple math. If I know I produce 100, I'm not going to sell more than 50, then I'm going to want to make money over the 100, so I'm going to hike up my price for that 50, because
Yeah.
at least I want to get close to my 100.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm sure I can sell my 100, then I can then reduce my price for one. So automatically impacts everybody if we're able to do that, fix that gap of processing. And the basic, because at the end of the day, what are the basic needs of man? Food, shelter, clothing.
Yeah.
So at least we can meet one of those basic needs, and then we can then move on to other things.
Welcome back, viewers, to La Lumiere the J, and this is the concluding segment. And this is where I get to ask you the question. I mean, I've heard all the wonderful things you're doing. So, how would you like to be remembered? What's the picture of
Interesting.
success?
So for me, my picture of success is, the value you were able to add to other people. That for me is a picture of success. So, how did you impact the lives that you touched? Right? What legacy are you going to leave behind? So, when I think about, because you always hear things like, how many companies in Nigeria that have been there for 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
So for me, it's when I even think about, okay, the company or whatever I want to create is a case of how do you want to set it so that it kind of, it lives beyond you. Today we hear of companies like Ford. Nobody really knows, I don't know if anybody knows the names of sports kids,
Yeah.
right? But we all know, the cars, right?
Yeah.
So it's, whatever you do outlive you. That's it at the end of the day. So it's, so everybody, for me, it's really about, you have to be deliberate about the fact that everybody you meet, everybody you interact with, you try to leave them better than you met them, right? And you want to be a positive influence. So that at the end of the day, they can say, oh, this about me was based on my interaction with this person, or I'm a better person in this way because of X, Y, Z, right? Not necessarily that you go and people are like, oh, good riddance, right? You want a case where you have a legacy of this person did this, had this impact in my life that lives on with me, and then I can also pass on. So it's about passing on, the
Good
right
stuff.
values. Yeah.
Sounds good. So, we just like to give you a little contribution as a way of celebrating that. So while the set was going on, a picture was
Interesting.
taken, and there's a postcard version. You can frame
thank
it
you.
however you want. So that would remind you of the promise you've made today, and let's hope that
This is nice. Thank you.
your dreams come true.
Thank you.
So on that note, viewers, we've come to the end of this beautiful program. We've said it again. You have responsibility to bring about those changes. Stop asking or waiting for your government, waiting for your boss. You want to be an employer? Resign if you need to be and move on. If you want to see changes in a particular place in your country, take the responsibility. And as you do that, even with the small resources that you have, things will begin to open up for you. We'll come your way next time. Bye for now and all the best.